Part 18. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 173. This is a bit of a double-edged sword. The undead knight's IQ may not be enough. He thought for a long time before he understood SIU's meaning. He couldn't help but have murderous eyes, but when he saw the sun essence in SIU's hand, he couldn't help but fall silent. His IQ is not high, so he can only think about the side that is beneficial to him. Which is better, owning a whole sun essence or owning half? Of course it's a whole one. But he has no way to protect the sun essence from SIU's hands. Moreover, SIU's words hit the point. Whether the undead knight has just been resurrected or awakened, he doesn't want to fall into sleep again. Even if he survives, he is still alive. In silence, an extremely depressing atmosphere enveloped the two of them, and the air around them seemed to become sticky. SIU's heartbeat was very fast, and sweat kept falling on her face. She pursed her lips, her face remained calm, but she was anxious in her heart, waiting for the undead knight's choice. Damn it! It will be too late if you don't hurry up. SIU gritted her teeth and urged impatiently, either half or die together. Please hurry up, other human warriors will come soon, and we can't leave. The undead knight belongs to the undead clan, and is also a bloodthirsty species. Once released, blood will flow like a river. If other human warriors see it, they will definitely surround and kill it. And SIU himself, after waking up 3 years ago, his body also mutated, awakening the blood power of the ancient times, and the whole person turned into a blood clan, strictly speaking, not a human. Such two aliens appeared in the core city of humans, and they also took such a precious thing as the essence of the sun. The end can be imagined. Yes. Although the undead knight's brain is not sleek, he is not a fool. After thinking for a while, he said hoarsely, you are paralyzed. Just when SIU showed a happy expression, a roar came over, attracting the attention of the two people. Looking not far away, Zhao Danggong had woken up from his coma. He endured the pain and got up from the ground. He was still thinking about looking for his spoils, but he saw the transaction between SIU and the undead knight. In an instant, Zhao Danggong was furious, and his heart was as furious as a volcanic eruption. He was shaking with anger. So I risked my life to grab the essence of the sun, and I used the teleportation secret technique to teleport away. But when I opened my eyes, I saw someone else using my spoils to trade. Who can stand this? Zhao Danggong's brain was congested, and his eyes were bloodshot. He took out his secret treasure, the golden shovel, and chopped at SIU. This chopped, there were 3 golden lights. As Zhao Danggong waved, the golden shovel shone brightly, and 3 extremely thin golden lines swung out, rushing towards SIU and the undead knight at lightning speed. Wherever the golden thread went, no grass grew, and even the space had a few cracks, and a faint evil wind emerged from the void space. Now Zhao Danggong seemed to have lost his mind, like a madman. Before, he felt sorry for his life when he swung the golden shovel, but now he took the initiative to swing it, and it was 3 consecutive hits at once. Why? He was frustrated. From small planetary fragments to the secret realm of the dead, he has been lying dead. Everyone is showing off, only he is being beaten. Who is he? He is Zhao Danggong, the only descendant of the Nuggets for thousands of generations. Rich Kyande. Whose Rich Kyande is being bullied like this? He also has to save face. Zhao Danggong doesn't care about the taboo of life. He is not strong himself, and his only reliance is the golden shovel in his hand that can cut through space. At this time, if he wants to turn the tables, he can only risk his life and not fear life and death. Your mother's legs, do you really think I'm easy to bully? Zhao Danggong was full of evil spirits and said with a ferocious face. 3 golden rays swung towards SIU at a very fast speed. These rays could even cut through space, not to mention the body. In the blink of an eye, Siu's face changed. She knew the power of these golden rays. After all, the death column that had left her helpless before was cut open by these golden rays. Compared to the death column, her body was much weaker. Damn it! Why are they all here to make trouble? Siu hated them to death. If she had known that she would be killed at that time, she would not have opened the secret realm of the dead. These idle fish were just making trouble. Facing these golden rays that could cut through space, Siu did not dare to neglect them. Her face was solemn. With a wave of her hand, several blood barriers blocked her. One by one, one by one. The moment the golden rays touched the blood barrier, it was like a hard stone hitting glass, shattering everything. Do it? Siu's expression changed drastically. She screamed and tightened her hands at the same time, holding the essence of the sun in her hand. Most of her blood and energy were now consumed, and she couldn't even put up a decent barrier, and couldn't use those powerful defensive methods. She could only ask for help from the undead knight. But she didn't need to say anything, the undead knight moved on his own. After all, Zhao Danggong's target was not just Siu. The undead knight raised his black gun expressionlessly, pointed the gun at the golden light, and suddenly exerted force. Crack! A crisp cracking sound was heard. The tip of the black gun cracked. The breath of death surged like the sea. At the same time, the three golden rays of light had no energy and were offset. It must be said that the secret treasure passed down is awesome. Although I don't know what material the undead knight's black gun is made of, the tip of the gun shattered when touched, which was enough to reveal the power of the golden light. Although it was offset this time, Zhao Hanbang did not stop there. His anger became more and more violent, regardless of the consequences. Swish, swish, swish. Swish, swish, swish. 3 paths again. Zhao horizontal bar seemed to not want to live anymore, the golden shovel was turned on at its maximum power, and 6 golden rays of light flew towards the undead knight and Siu. I want to see if your weapon lasts longer or I live longer. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Zhao Xingbang's eyes. If there is no effort, there will be no reward. He is really going to fight? The fight here became more and more joyful, but on the other side, under a ruin that no one found, Yejing was so happy that he could not close his smiling mouth. Fight, fight, the more intense the fight, the more I can take over. Yejing is not a fool. He is not just here to watch the show. He also simulates how to deal with them. The undead knight directly passed. This was something he could not defeat now. The undead knight had previously asked him to give up the gold and slay the dragon to save his life with a casual attack. But the next time, he would not be so lucky. Yejing's eyes fell on the strong and dark body of the undead knight, and he couldn't help but shuddered all over. If you can't afford to offend me, I'd better change my target. Yejing muttered a few words silently in his mind and turned his attention to the desperate Zhao horizontal bar. Thanks to use Hangyushu for the 500 coin reward. I haven't received a reward for a long time. Thank you. Dash. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Buletin Bayet. Chapter 174. When a loser doesn't care about his life, what is that? Still a loser. Zhao Danggong himself is not strong, of course, it can't be said that he is not strong. In the outside world, he is at least an elite genius, but now, it seems that he has no share. One is a peak undead knight in the Fate realm. Although he has just woken up and is not familiar with it, he has not shown the corresponding strength, but he is so fierce. One is Siu in red clothes who has survived from decades ago. Although he is injured, he holds the big killer weapon of the sun essence. One is the protagonist with a plug-in. As for Zhao Danggong, he only has a golden shovel of unknown origin. Although it is powerful, it is just a tool for cutting space, not a practical weapon. It can't cut anyone at all. He just relies on his desperate momentum to hold on. Ye Jing didn't even hesitate and directly set his target on Zhao Dangang. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong is the way to survive. The undead knight will be afraid of Siu because she has the sun essence, which is a very important energy source for him. Siu would be afraid of the undead knight because he couldn't beat him at all. And Zhao Dangang was just going to give himself up. Maybe he understood this, but he just couldn't accept it. He had worked so hard and almost died to get the sun essence, but someone took it away after he opened a teleportation secret skill. He felt so frustrated. Fu Qiande had everything except face. Zhao Dangang didn't care about anything else. He would just fight first. Even if it didn't work, he had to show his momentum. When he saw that his 3 golden lights were useless, he got angry and swung his arms. The golden shovel he held turned and waved like an electric fan. One after another golden rays appeared out of thin air, interlaced up and down, and finally formed a huge net like a chessboard. Go! Zhao Dangang held the golden shovel and tapped the golden chessboard lightly. The huge chessboard covering about 5 meters from top to bottom flew towards Siu and the undead knight. In such a short distance, the space where the golden chessboard went was unstable and cut into a faint grid. It would take dozens of minutes to recover. The biggest disadvantage of the golden shovel's attack is that it is easy to dodge. It is a thin line, and you can dodge it as long as you dodge it carefully. But Zhao Dangang learned to be smart. He directly connected more than a dozen golden rays together to form a 4 or 5 meter high net, chasing you around. You can only face it head on. Facing the suddenly formed golden chessboard, Siu had not yet taken action, but the undead knight moved first. His eyes showed undisguised murderous intent. The black gun pierced the golden chessboard directly, and the gun force was so strong that a hole was directly punched in the golden chessboard. Then he jumped and rushed straight to Zhao Dangang, thinking of solving this trouble first. Although the undead knight rushed through the golden chessboard, he did not break the law. The golden chessboard with a big hole still went to Siu's net. This attack seemed frivolous, but it was murderous. Once caught in the net, the whole person will be cut into pieces and die instantly. Siu looked at the golden chessboard coming towards her and her face changed. She hurriedly protected the sun essence. If it was damaged in the slightest, they would all be blown to death. While protecting the sun essence, she looked determined. She raised her jade-like index finger and put it into her red lips. She bit it lightly and made a hole. Then she pointed it in the air, and dozens of drops of first blood flowed out of her body and floated in the air. The moment the first blood flowed out, her face turned from rosy to pale, and her body became weak. Damn it! My first blood is almost gone. But there is no way. If you don't use the first blood, you can't resist this golden chessboard at all. Dozens of drops of deep red first blood floated in the air. Under the rotation of Siu's fingers, it expanded rapidly and formed a huge first blood shield, blocking her in front. She didn't know whether the first blood shield could resist this strange golden chessboard, but as long as it could block it for 1 second, it would be enough. It's enough for her to run. Siu's eyes were full of inexplicable brilliance. The undead knight was not very smart. He was provoked by Zhao Dangang and went to fight. This gave her a chance to escape. As long as the essence of the sun is absorbed, it can be restored to its heyday, and even go up a level. Only a fool would be willing to share it with others. Her initial blood was consumed, and her meridians and chi were greatly damaged, but it did not affect her running speed. Before the golden chessboard faced the initial blood shield, she had already turned around and fled. It was very unfortunate. The direction she fled was exactly the direction where Ye Jing was ambushing. The opportunity has come. Ye Jing, who had been lurking for a long time, had a bright look in his eyes. He finally waited for the opportunity. He was lying on the ruins and just wanted to launch a surprise attack, but he was afraid of alerting Siu. However, counterattack would delay time. Once the undead knight was attracted, it would be a waste of time. One strike must succeed. Yejing suddenly held his breath, stopped the flow of spiritual energy in his body, and even put away the weapon in his hand. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Trigger the invisible wings, enter the invisible state, block all breath, and consume 1% of the total spiritual energy per second. Triggering the invisible wings, people who are not one level higher than him cannot detect it. Siu in his prime could do it, but not now. Yejing's whole body disappeared on the spot, without any breath, as if there was no one here at all. Here it comes. The two sides were not far apart. Siu stood with both hands in front of her chest, holding the sun essence in her arms, and flew towards this side while paying attention to the movements of the undead knight. She had no idea that there was a little wolf hiding here. 20 meters. 15 meters. 10 meters. Yejing waited for an opportunity, not daring to move at all, watching Siu's pair of snow-white long legs running towards him, about to cross over his head. It's the fairy. Yejing's heart beat violently, and when Siu crossed over his head, he suddenly looked up, his eyes full of white and bright red cloth. However, this beautiful scenery could not attract his eyes and attention, he was always staring at the sun essence in Siu's arms. Look up, move, reach out, grab. A set of actions seemed to have been practiced countless times, and it was done in one go. In just a moment, the sun essence originally held in Siu's arms was snatched away by Yejing. Got it? The extreme burning sensation from his palm seemed to burn his hands off, it hurt so much. Yejing gritted his teeth and endured it. The moment he snatched the sun essence, he rolled over and moved away from Siu. Then he released his spiritual energy to wrap up the sun essence and held it in his hand. This sudden change happened in the blink of an eye. The moment the sun essence was snatched away, Siu hadn't reacted yet. After running 5 meters, he felt something was wrong. He looked at his chest and saw nothing but his breasts. He was stunned. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 175. Siu panicked and turned around quickly to see Yejing running away holding the essence of the sun. She couldn't help but feel angry and her red hair danced. Stop the thief! She screamed, and a bloody blade several meters long appeared out of thin air and struck Yejing straight. I'm standing still. Yejing didn't even know how to hold his head, so he took out the rich version of the Golden Dragon Slayer and stabbed it with his backhand. Then he continued running without stopping, towards the gate of the secret realm of the dead. It's not that he's afraid of Siu, it's just that he has the things in hand and there's no reason to get entangled with her. Moreover, there is a bigger boss that has not yet recovered. If the undead knight catches up, he will have no choice but to self-destruct. Fortunately, the door to the secret realm of the dead is not far away. As long as you keep firm, follow the party, and follow your heart to escape, you will have a chance to escape intact. As long as the secret realm of the dead is excluded, he is not afraid. In the outside world, Siu and the undead knight did not dare to mess around. They were both under cover. After they went out, it would be their turn to run away without seeing the sun at all. Yejing hugged the essence of the sun and ran with her head lowered, not caring about Siu's frantic screams behind her. Anyway, you got the thing, so what's the use of being so angry? Stop for me. It's a pity that her long-range attack is her strength, but her physical strength is her weakness. When her body is weak, her speed will also be weak. No matter how she creates obstacles for Yejing, she can't catch up with him, but gets farther and farther away. Siu's eyes turned red when she saw the distance between the two of them, which was dozens of meters apart, but she couldn't catch up, and her aunt was so angry that she almost came. "Grandson, stop. One person is half as good as the other. You're talking nonsense. You already have everything in my hands and you still want to divide it up. Don't let my aunt catch up. If I catch up, I will tear you into pieces. Then you come after me. If you catch up with me, I'll let you go." A man and a woman, one behind the other, above Yejing's head and behind him, there were constant attacks coming down, blocking his steps. Even if Yejing resisted with his body, he would not slow down his steps. He regretted letting Aizayakui and Gray leave first. It would be much easier if he had two helpers at this time. Half a minute. Only half a minute passed from when Siu ran away holding the Sun Essence to when Yejing ran away in panic holding the Sun Essence. Half a minute is enough for what? It's enough for the undead knight to clean up Zhao's horizontal bar. Within half a minute, Zhao was seriously injured on the horizontal bar. He had no choice but to use his secret teleportation technique and endure the heartache to move himself. After the transfer, only the undead knight was left in the open space. He turned his head stiffly and said hoarsely, "Half for each person, let you go." The undead knight was obviously stunned, his brain was a little confused, and he didn't understand how a good living person disappeared. Then he saw two people running wildly 1,000 meters away. In an instant, black energy surged violently, the breath of death was violent, the bloody eyes stared fiercely, and a killing energy as strong as thunder rose into the sky. Die! A roar echoed through the sky, and then the entire body disappeared from the spot, turning into a stream of black light, leaving behind a series of after-images. This furious sound reached the ears of Yejing and Siu, and their expressions changed drastically, and they couldn't help but increase their speed. "Give the Sun Essence to my aunt. I can withstand him. Afterwards, each of us will get half of it. You lied to a fool for no money. You still have nothing to do with me after you resist. Then let's all die together. If you die, whoever is afraid of you will die. If you can't offend me, then you will blow yourself up." Yejing pretended to be unscrupulous, but in fact his heart was trembling. His legs gathered all his strength and ran as fast as he could. He was also afraid of being caught up by the undead knight. The journey was very fast, and after a while, he could already see the black gate not far away. Soon. Coming soon. Yes, the door in front will be there soon, and the undead knight in the back has already arrived. The speed of the undead knight was much faster than that of Yejing. He was over 1,000 meters away and caught up with him in the blink of an eye. There was a strong murderous intent in his eyes, and without even looking at Siu, he swung out his black gun, and the gun energy wrapped in the breath of death rushed towards Yejing's back. "Welcome!" Yejing felt the powerful power and wind coming from behind. He was not surprised but happy. He turned around suddenly and faced the gun like a black hole. He stood up with a long knife in his hand and placed it across his chest. Moment. The black spear hit the long knife like a thunderbolt. The powerful impact made Yejing's palms numb, his chest felt tight, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. He flew into the air and fell heavily to the back. "This is the power I borrowed. Being cruel to yourself is the real cruelty." Yejing's eyes were fierce, and he endured the pain from his internal organs. With the force of the impact, he flew hundreds of meters away, opening a large distance in an instant. He spun around in the air several times to relieve his pressure. When his feet landed on the ground, he stabilized his body and continued to escape without stopping at all. "As long as you get out of the secret realm of the dead, there will be no problem." "Damn it! This idiot!" Siu cursed angrily in his heart. Apart from being very strong, the undead knight was full of garbage, especially his brain. She became a little desperate and opened another 100 meters away. Her speed was average and she would definitely not be able to catch up. The essence of the sun was getting further and further away from her. Do you want to give up like this? Go out and find a random place to recover from your injuries. So unwilling. Siu felt heartbroken thinking about today's experience. Most of the initial blood she had saved was lost, the key to the secret realm of the dead was gone, and even the essence of the sun was gone. She was also seriously injured. What a loss. And the culprit of all this was Yejing. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Siu couldn't help but yelled out. You bastard! Don't let me catch you, or I'll pickle you. Yejing couldn't help but tremble all over, thinking that women are the most vicious. I haven't used it yet, and you want to cut it off for me? Bah! Do you know the wonders of this thing? If you don't know, try it with me. The gate to the secret realm of the dead was close at hand, and the anger on the undead knight soared. Although he didn't have enough IQ, he felt that he was not a fool. He knew that the spear power could help Yejing escape, so he stopped using it. Instead, he changed to a more ruthless one. He threw the dark spear out directly. The undead knight's arm swelled up, black veins squirmed, and the long spear was like a dragon, aiming at Yejing's back and suddenly throwing it out. Its speed was unparalleled, like lightning, and it shot behind Yejing in an instant, leaving him no chance to react. Puff! It went in, blood flying everywhere. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 176. Hiss. The blow from behind made Yejing gasp for air, his eyes widened, his mouth twitched, a feeling of extreme pain spread from his back to his whole body, his hands and feet went numb instantly, cold sweat broke out all over his body, and before his eyes could turn black, a voice came to his mind. If you receive fatal damage, you will trigger the War of Sorrow, resist this fatal attack, and increase your strength, destructive power and speed by 100%, and absorb 20% of your blood when attacking, which lasts for 30 seconds. Although he was not injured, the pain was still real, just like a piece of meat was dug out, making Yejing's eyes turn black, and he had to bite the tip of his tongue and hold on. He was also secretly shocked in his heart, and he actually hit his War of Sorrow with one blow. Now he didn't even have the last trump card. If he suffered a heavy blow again, he would really go to see the King of Hell. It's really scary. However, in addition to being shocked, Yejing also showed a touch of surprise on his face. In addition to being able to resist a fatal attack, War of Sorrow also has additional states, and among them, there is speed, which he lacks the most. When War of Sorrow was triggered, Yejing felt that his whole body was as light as a swallow, striding forward, and every step was swept by a strong wind, and his speed increased by a whole step. Originally, he had made the worst plan, self-destructing the essence of the sun and being destroyed, so he would get nothing. Unless he had to play, he would not use it. But now it's good, War of Sorrow made the undead knight attack, and the self-destruction trick could not be used. However, Yejing raised his head slightly, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and a illusory and dark door stood up 100 meters in front of him. 100 meters is just a matter of seconds for him whose speed has doubled. Within reach. Behind him, the undead knight was stunned when he saw Yejing walking briskly. His eyes were dull and he was confused. According to common sense, his shot could completely kill Yejing. But the scene in front of him was beyond his expectation, and his brain cells were not enough. Why was it intact? Not only the undead knight was confused, but Siu at the back was also confused. She was shocked. She really saw the black gun of the undead knight piercing Yejing's back. She thought Yejing was going to kneel down, but who knew that nothing happened to him and he ran faster. Secret technique. Siu's red eyes flashed, and she muttered, "This kid actually has a trump card in his hand." And he was so tight that he didn't let it go until the last moment. Damn it! This time it's really over. Siu was extremely angry. According to her observation, Yejing's speed increased significantly, and he was only one step away from the exit of the secret realm of the dead. The sun essence really had nothing to do with her this time. She had already begun to plan to escape from the sight of the undead knight and fly away. Siu's red eyes stared at Yejing's back, as if she wanted to remember him firmly in her heart. This was the biggest loss she had ever suffered in her life. From the first blood to the sun essence, they were all destroyed in Yejing's hands. No matter what she said, she couldn't let it go. She must take revenge. Yejing didn't know that he had been targeted. He only had the exit in front of him in his eyes. 30 meters. 20 meters. He could already feel the strong murderous intent coming from behind him, sticking closely behind him, as if a black gun would pierce his heart in the next moment. 10 meters. 5 meters. Yejing's face showed excitement. He finally arrived. When his body hit the exit of the secret realm of the dead, he suddenly turned around with the sun essence in his arms, looked at the undead knight and Siu who were chasing him, and couldn't help but smile, silently spitting out 2 words. Bye. Then the next second, his whole body was swallowed by the black door of nothingness and disappeared on the spot. Finally out. A dazzling sunlight shone on Yejing's face, and the familiar and intact street appeared in front of him. Looking at this scene, the whole person breathed a sigh of relief, and the sweat on his forehead could not help falling. The moment he came out, a hurried voice sounded in his ears. "Yejing! Get in the car! Get in the car!" After a slight pause, Yejing turned his head to look in the direction of the voice, and saw a purple streamer sports car parked 10 meters away from him. Gray waved at him through the window, looking anxious. Yejing also knew that he was not really out of danger yet, so he hugged the basketball-sized sun essence and ran directly into the car. In addition to Gray, there were Xiaowu, Ai Xiaokui, and Ji Qinjian who were driving in the car. All of them were there, waiting for him. Drive. The spiritual energy was at the end, without any pollution. In an instant, the whole person and the car body turned into a very conspicuous purple lightning and went away. Huh. Finally safe. When the car started, Yejing finally relaxed and took a long breath. He lay on the soft backrest, feeling sore all over and exhausted. When Yejing went out, only the undead knight and Siu were left in the secret realm of the dead, staring at each other, at a loss. Both of them were resurrected by the essence of the sun, and their purpose was also the essence of the sun, but the essence of the sun was taken away by others, and a feeling of depression arose spontaneously. After a slight daze, Siu remembered what kind of existence she was looking at. She couldn't help but show a vigilant look on her pretty face and suddenly retreated to the exit. "The housekeeper's people are coming. How about stopping for today?" The essence of the sun was gone, and she had no capital or reason to fight the undead knight. The most important thing now was to leave first. Once an illegal person like her was caught by the housekeeper, it would be difficult to escape. The undead knight was the same. A black air appeared on his head, as if he was thinking about something. He looked at Siu with a pair of dark eyes and said hoarsely, "Okay." As soon as the voice fell, Siu's body rushed into the black door of nothingness and disappeared. Then, the undead knight followed him out. Both of them were illegal residents, so they had to leave first and deal with the rest later. When the battlefield ended and there was no one left, only the huge secret realm of the dead was left unclosed. The talents of the Federation arrived late, and they were only 2 explorers in the underground palace. The 2 explorers looked up at the huge secret realm of the dead and hesitated. "You go in first and take a look." "Why should it be me? Why don't you go in? What if there is danger?" "Forget it, let's just ask for support." Agreed. They didn't know that in this secret realm of the dead, a peak-level undead knight had already awakened and successfully escaped and hid. It was even said that a certain organization belonging to the undead department had taken it in. So that's it, no more fuss, just open the academy. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouladin G. Bayet. Chapter 177. On the hearse. After Yejing took a breath, he looked at Gray with a solemn face and couldn't help but wonder, why are you so anxious? Haven't you already escaped? Gray shook his head, it's not that I'm in a hurry. The main thing is that the people from the Federation are coming soon. If we bump into them, trouble will inevitably happen. It's better to leave early. This is true. Once they come out of the secret realm of the dead and encounter people from the Federation, they will inevitably be interrogated, which will be extremely troublesome. Gray and the others had been waiting for Yejing in the car for a while, thinking that if Yejing didn't come out after the Federation came, they would have to leave first. However, he only kept these words in his heart and did not say them out loud. The crisis was over, and the little girl Ji Qinjian was not honest again. She looked at the sun essence held by Yejingxiu with a curious look on her face. She couldn't hold back her curiosity and couldn't help but stretch out her white fingers and click on it. Is this the core of the sun? Why can't I feel the existence of energy? The energy of the sun essence did not leak out at all, and it was like a red basketball when being held in Yejing's arms. Don't touch it. Yejing was shocked when he saw her actions, and hurriedly slapped Ji Qinjian's little hand away. Don't touch this thing, just touch your finger and it's over. He had touched it directly with his hand once before, and his hand was almost burnt after just a moment of contact. If it had been Ji Qinjian, those fingers would have been scrapped. Is it that powerful? Ji Qinjian glanced sideways at Yejing, a little disbelieving. She couldn't feel the energy emitted by the sun essence at all. She murmured in her heart, could this thing be fake? Although she was a little suspicious, she still took her hand back, not daring to be presumptuous. Ahem. At this time, Gray suddenly coughed twice, hesitated, and said, what are you going to do with this thing? If you do, I will take it on behalf of our family. The price is high. Although the essence of the sun is not as good as the Omega sublight, it is still the core of the sun. It is an ultra-high-level energy. It is the kind of treasure that cannot be missed when you encounter it. He has the authority to handle the acquisition without the words of the family leader. Gray sighed secretly in his heart, blaming his lack of strength. If he could have helped a little in the secret realm of the dead before, he would not have to mention the acquisition and could just get a share of the pie. It's a pity that in the secret realm of the dead, he only throws himself into the street. Ai Zayakui, who was sitting next to her, was even more excited than Gray. From the moment Yejing got in the car to now, her smart eyes had been placed on the sun essence without moving away. Her lips were slightly open, and her saliva was about to flow out. She was completely imageless. If Yejing hadn't also joined Yu Jianhei and become one of her own, she might have taken it directly. Not for sale. Yejing refused without hesitation. Are you kidding? How could such a rare treasure be sold? And compared to selling it to others, keeping it in his own hands is more useful, and it can even become another trump card for him. When he first entered the secret realm of the dead, the furnace was alarming, because of this sun essence. As long as he eats the sun essence to the furnace, although it is impossible to directly evolve into a new form, it is definitely possible to upgrade, and it may be possible to open it. New features. Based on this alone, it is absolutely impossible for him to sell the essence of the sun. He himself is collecting high-level energy. How can he let it go? However, he was not going to let the furnace eat the sun essence. Instead, he had another idea. Leave. To save your life. How can this violent and powerful high-level energy be used to save lives? Explode. This is Yejing's latest plan. If the sun essence is eaten by the furnace, there may be unexpected surprises, and it may also unlock practical functions. But those are not what Yejing urgently needs. What does he need? I need something that can make people afraid. You need the means to survive in the Magic City. This is also the reason why he fought for it with all his life after seeing the essence of the sun before. Too weak, his own strength is too weak. In this big city where people are worse than dogs and underground palaces are everywhere, he has no sense of security at all. He may not always be able to offend someone. At that time, he doesn't even have a chance to resist. Like him now, if it were a head-on confrontation, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat even a high-level underground palace realm, let alone a destiny realm or even an extraordinary powerhouse. In such a big city, he could only crawl forward like an ant, cautiously, and he might be trampled to death at some point. And Sun Essence is the best counter-attack card. The essence of the sun possesses extremely terrifying violent energy. Although its power is unknown, it can frighten the undead knights at the peak of the destiny realm, so it seems that it is not weak. And he possesses the sorrow of war. Once he encounters an enemy of life and death, once he reaches a critical moment, the effect of the sun's essence will be revealed. War sorrow plus sun essence equals atomic bomb. If I can't beat you, I'll blow you up. It's that simple. With this sun essence, he seemed to have a foundation in his heart and felt much more relaxed. Aren't you going to sell this? This is a large sum of spiritual stones. It's useless for you to hold the sun essence anyway. Gray was unwilling to give up and persuaded Yejing. He. Yejing laughed and turned on the combination function in the furnace, revealing an empty 9-square grid. Then, without hiding anything, he took away the sun essence in full view of everyone. The sun essence suddenly disappeared, and Gray was stunned. Impossible. You actually have storage equipment that can accommodate high-level energy? Where did you get the money to buy it? The sun essence is like Omega Light. Ordinary storage equipment can't bear their energy at all and will explode the storage space instantly. Storage equipment that can accommodate high-level energy, although the storage area is not large, is still expensive, at least hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. Gray is very clear about Yejing's family background. How could he have spare money to buy such expensive luxury goods? Could it be that something happened somewhere that I don't know about? Gray couldn't help but think wildly. Facing Gray's question, Yejing just smiled and nodded. What do you care about me? Anyway, others can't find it? Cars come and go. Soon, the hearse stopped and drove back to the 19th district, in front of Eugene Hayes base. Gray held the seat, pointed out the window to Ai Zayakui and Ji Kinjian, and said, "You two go back, we'll go home today, and we'll talk about it next time we get together." Ai Zayakui nodded and got out of the car silently. Ji Kinjian smiled sweetly and waved her little hand to Yejing and Gray. "Bye, brothers. Take me to the central area next time." "No problem. It's a small matter," Gray patted his chest and said. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills?" Author, Bouletin Bayet. Chapter 178. On the way back, Gray still refused to give up and harassed Yejing all the way, trying to persuade him to sell the solar essence. Yejing was unmoved and asked curiously, "Isn't your family a fish seller? What's the use of this high-level energy for fish sellers? Do you use it as a small sun to dry salted fish?" Gray's family supplies more than 20% of the aquatic business in the entire Blue Star, and this kind of industry generally has nothing to do with high-level energy. A salted fish seller wants to make an atomic bomb? Gray rolled his eyes and said, "Who told you that fish sellers don't need it? The role of high-level energy is not what you can imagine. Whether it is used by people or operated super large machines, it has unexpected value, which attracts various forces to compete for it. If you don't plan to sell it, hide it. If the news gets out, it will be a big trouble. Yejing nodded, indicating that he understood, and didn't think so in his heart. Who can find his furnace space? Gray sent Yejing to the door of his house, waved to him, and left in the car. Bye, if you have something to say, call me. After returning home, Yejing did not rush to bed, but lay on the sofa in the living room, leaning against it and resting. For some reason, every time he returned home, he liked to rest on the sofa, with his legs straight, his body slumped like mud, and his whole body was like a dead fish. When he returned home, he really relaxed, regardless of the humming of the furnace in his mind. Anyway, no matter how the furnace was humming, he did not intend to feed it with the essence of the sun. What to do now? Yejing looked at the time. It was only 7 o'clock in the afternoon. It was still far from bedtime, and he could even not sleep. Practice. It's impossible. It's impossible to practice. It's impossible to practice in this life. You can only rely on the energy leaked from the furnace to survive. He turned on the floating big screen hanging on the wall of the living room when he had nothing to do. Speaking of this small villa, it really has everything. The kitchen is fully equipped, there is a TV in the living room, and there is also a super configured computer in the house, all left by the Deputy City Lord Chang Xiao. The first channel after turning on the big screen is LBTV1 in the upper right corner. Federal TV, I think it is the channel that the Deputy City Lord of Changjiao has tuned in. Only the housekeepers like them watch such boring things. Yejing just thought about changing the channel, and a piece of news attracted his attention. According to reports, the first pioneer group has successfully entered the edge of the solar system and will step into the fragments of Pluto in a few days. Our accompanying reporter interviewed the head of the first pioneer group. Traveling far into the fragments of Pluto, it is really powerful and courageous. Yejing couldn't help but feel yearning and envy in his heart. With his strength, he almost died when he went to a small planetary fragment near home, let alone going further. Moreover, during the day, I heard that the leader of the Xuanhuan organization also participated in the action of stepping far into the fragments of Pluto. I don't know what his status is in the group army. But think about it, Xuanhuan's organization is also an extraordinary strongman. If they participate in such a large-scale operation, I think their status will not be too low. The news screen turned and a burly middle-aged man wearing thunder armor appeared. He looked calm, as if he had been interviewed countless times. This large-scale operation to step on the fragments of Pluto marks the starting point of mankind's formal conquest of the solar system. Among the participants, there are 23 extraordinary realms and hundreds of destiny realms. They are all heroes of mankind. Although we don't know what kind of horror exists on Pluto, we heroes will not retreat. Go forward bravely. Firm belief. After conquering Pluto, the first pioneer group vows to step out of the solar system and break into the unknown starry sky. A strong and steady voice came from the man's mouth, conveying his firm belief and unyielding spirit. No one knows what is beyond Pluto, and no one knows what is outside the solar system, but there will always be a group of people who will take that step first to find the future for mankind. Pioneer. Yejing stared at the big screen with an inexplicable glow in his eyes. It was impossible for him not to yearn for the universe. Whether it was on Earth or Blue Star, the universe was an unknown existence, and the unknown existence was so fascinating. When will I have the strength to travel to other planets? Yejing was so envious. Now he could only stay in Blue Star, in a city, and stay there honestly. Without strength, there would be no dream. The scene changed, and the report was gone. Yejing was not in a hurry to dial the channel. He knew too little about this world, so little that he didn't know anything. He just read the news and knew about the good people and good deeds that happened recently. Pa. National affairs are still good. He is very free anyway. Next report. According to the reporters stationed in the moon, at the end of the year, the Moon City officially refused to submit this year's financial statements and personnel combat readiness to the Federation, and changed the name of the Moon City to New Moon City without the Federation's knowledge. The Federation has issued 3 consecutive condemnations to the Moon City, but has not received an official response. It is reported that the Federation is preparing to send a director to inspect the Moon City in 3 days. The upper level is not easy either. Yejing laughed a little. It is obvious that New Moon City is going to make trouble. Refusing to submit reports and changing the name privately, ignoring condemnations, isn't this just not taking the Federation seriously? Yes, after all, the Moon is the only intact planet in the solar system with biological existence, and it is also full of humans. Although the area is a bit small, it cannot support the rapid development of others. For decades, the Federation has been giving people to people, money to money, resources to resources, and everything has been given the green light. However, after Crescent City was built and stabilized, people no longer looked after the Federation. It feels like I'm about to leave. If something big doesn't happen next, I'll chop my head off. Eat melon, watch a show, feel comfortable. Yejing leaned on the sofa with a smile and lazily watched the news delivered on LBTV. Sitting in the room to know the world's affairs, he had to watch the news. It is reported that the Kingdom of the Sea, which occupies the large land fragment of Neptune, has officially established diplomacy with Blue Star. Each side has sent 3 diplomats to each other. According to a professor, foreigners cannot be trusted and must be cautious when establishing diplomacy. I have nothing to do with rain. It is reported that the Federation's beautiful girl idol Ling Qiluo said at a recent press conference that she will apply for Magic City Academy, which attracted the attention of all Blue Star teenagers, resulting in the number of applicants for Magic City Academy increasing several times this year. Beautiful girl? Yejing's eyes lit up and he paid attention. The news lasted for a full hour, and he watched it for an hour, and then watched a big movie produced by Ascenda's group before going to bed. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 179. Yejing had just fallen asleep, or not really, just lying on the bed. He was half asleep, and before he fell asleep completely, he suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis in his heart. His hair stood on end, his body tensed up, and he subconsciously rolled off the bed. The next second after he rolled off the bed, several blood blades appeared out of thin air and pierced directly into the soft bed, piercing the entire bed beyond recognition. If Yejing was still on the bed, he might have been pierced like a gourd. Blood blades. Are they chasing after him? Yejing was startled, and just as he was about to get up, several more bright red blood blades flew towards his body. Damn it! Yejing cursed, and had no time to get up, so he had to roll over like a donkey, rolled several times, and directly knocked open the door. Can you let people have a good rest? In response to him was a crisp cracking sound. When he looked up, the window was broken, and a fiery red figure rushed out of the darkness, wearing a long bright red dress, breaking through the window. In the dead of night, Siu held a blood sword and attacked Yejing's home. Siu's blood pupils shone like long lamps in the dark, staring at Yejing, not giving him a chance to breathe. A flash of blood appeared in his pupils, and 2 invisible marks pierced into the depths of Yejing's soul. Mental attacks are hard to defend against, and their speed is extremely fast. In just a blink of an eye, Yejing felt a sharp pain in his brain, and then a voice sounded in his mind. Trigger mental immunity, immune to all mental attacks, lasting 15 seconds, cooling for 15 minutes. It was this passive skill that allowed Yejing to catch his breath. He quickly turned over, drew out the golden dragon slaying sword, confronted Siu, and cursed, "Are you tired? I am tired even if you are not tired. Damn it." Siu saw Yejing, who was attacked by the mental attack but was intact, and couldn't help cursing in his heart. This was the second time. He really had a treasure secret skill to defend against mental attacks. After she came out of the secret realm of the dead, she turned into a bat and followed Gray's car until she arrived at Yejing's doorstep and hid. She also wanted to catch Yejing off guard, then snatch the sun essence and take it back to heal her wounds, but who would have thought that Yejing was so alert that he reacted in an instant and avoided her attack. I should have just squatted there earlier. She had been squatting for several hours since 7 p.m. She saw that the lights in Yejing's house had been turned off for nearly an hour before she launched a surprise attack. Who would have thought that after an hour, Yejing was still not asleep? When Siu thought about the failed sneak attack, she was very annoyed. She was seriously injured now. If the sneak attack failed and she couldn't get the sun essence, she would have no chance. Retreat. When she saw Yejing take out his weapon, she immediately made a decision and turned around and ran away. She didn't want her injuries to get worse. Still want to run? Yejing was so angry when he saw Siu turn around and attack. He broke my window and destroyed my house. Now he wants to run away? Too late. Yejing raised his leg, leaned forward and rushed towards Siu, without any mercy, raised his long knife and chopped at her back. Damn, no matter how beautiful my big sister is, she is not mine. Instead of letting others harm her, I might as well chop her to death. Siu felt the wind of the knife coming from behind her, flipped her red sleeves, and slapped her smooth and tender palms with blood and energy. Bang! During the confrontation, a strong recoil made Yejing retreat a few steps, and Siu hit the wall. She frowned slightly and looked at her palm. In the palm of her newborn baby, there was a small knife mark. Although it didn't bleed, it was just right to hurt. Damn, what kind of weapon is this? It's so sharp. Siu's heart trembled. This was the second time she suffered a loss from this weapon. The previous head-on confrontation, she split a crack on her fingernail, and this time it was a scratch on her palm. Although both injuries were very minor, they were real injuries. You know, although she was seriously injured and her cultivation level regressed, her physical strength did not change. Her physical strength is still that of the heavenly fate realm. But even with such physical strength, she still suffered 2 losses at the hands of Yejing, which made her a little scared. That weapon is wrong. Siu leaned against the wall with a trace of solemnity on her rosy face, and her cherry lips opened slightly. Little brother, how about forgetting it this time? She admitted her fear, thinking that she would come back after her strength recovered. Yejing sneered, pointed the long sword in his hand at the messy room, and said lightly, "Forget it, just pay me the money for repairing the room first." He also had some concerns. If he hadn't been beaten by the undead knight during the day with War of Sorrow, he would rather risk his life to eliminate the threat of Siu. It's a pity that War of Sorrow is on cooldown now, and he doesn't know if this woman has any trump cards. If she fails, it will be terrible. He can only give up for now. When he heard about paying money, Siu couldn't help but stiffen, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on his face. "I have no money, not at all." Yejing waved his long knife expressionlessly, "Then let's fight. After I catch you, I will hand you over to the Federation. I can get some rewards for catching criminals." Criminal? Siu was slightly startled, and his expression was confused. "What criminal? I didn't break the law. Why do you say I am a criminal?" Yejing's mouth twitched. "Have you forgotten the hundreds of blood corpses on Jiaolong Street? They are all lives." Life? The lives of people. A sneer appeared on Siu's face, and he swore without any image of a beautiful woman, "You know what the hell? The people in the whole street are all evil people. They sell drugs, sell children, rob and kill. they do all kinds of evil. My aunt is doing it for the people. If I go to the Federation to eliminate the harm, I might still be able to get a bounty. Yejing was stunned, then after reacting, he shrugged his shoulders, put down the weapon, put away his hostility, and said, "Okay, this is my misjudgment, so you should just pay the money. No matter what, if I don't pay for it today, I won't be able to get through this matter. This is a 99% new house. Just destroying a room for her." Yejing said that his heart was bleeding. Seeing Yejing put down his weapon, Siu also dispersed all the blood in his body. He spread his white hands and showed a happy expression, and said, "I don't have any money or my life, or let me go. Or keep fighting." Yejing. Yejing had a dark look on his face. "Don't have money? Then sell the house to make money. I can't live with demolishing my home." Siya glanced at the room, showing an envious expression, and said with a hint of jealousy, "A house? Not even." Yejing was startled and laughed angrily. "What are you talking about? Where can you live if you don't have a house?" "Under the bridge." Siu Shuetong stared at Yejing and nodded very seriously. "I really live under a bridge. Why are all of them passive skills?" Author, Bulletin Ji Bayet. Chapter 180. When Siu said that she lived in the bridge hole, in order to prove that what she said was true, she shook her body, and after a flash of blood, the living person disappeared and turned into a dark red bat the size of a palm, and then hung on the roof, upside down. Yejing was stunned by the scene and couldn't speak. Is this also a talent skill? Isn't this too buggy? From the people he met, Gray had a pair of wings after his body mutated and flew into the sky anytime and anywhere. Aizayakoi could hide in the shadow and follow the shadow. Here came another one who could transform. The stunts were so amazing that Yejing's scalp was numb and he was so envious. After only a few seconds of display, the bat hanging upside down on the roof flashed red light and returned to human form, standing in front of Yejing. Siu lifted her sleeves, revealing her snow-white arms. She crossed her arms over her chest, raised her eyebrows, and said complacently, "What? I said I'll sleep under the bridge, and it's free." Yejing's mouth twitched, not knowing what to say. Why would she be so proud of sleeping under the bridge? Before Yejing could say anything more, Siu's expression changed, and a pair of shining blood-red eyes looked at Yejing, pretending to be pitiful and said, "So, little brother, I really can't afford to pay, or let's just forget about it. I was also injured by you, so we can offset each other." Although she said so, she sneered in her heart. "You destroyed most of my primordial blood and robbed my sun essence. You want to forget about it? Impossible. This is just a stopgap measure. When my injury recovers, I will kill you first." Seeing Siu like this, Yejing couldn't help but twitch his mouth, thinking, "Really? Ah, I accidentally said what was in my heart. But it doesn't matter." He pretended not to see Siu's somewhat stiff smile, and said seriously, "It is natural to pay back debts. How can you just let it go? Then what do you want? Just say it. Anyway, there is no money." When Siu heard Yejing's refusal, she didn't pretend anymore. She rolled her eyes, tilted her body, and leaned lazily against the wall. She looked indifferent. How to describe it? Just like a dead pig that is not afraid of boiling water. "What do I want? I want you to pay me with your body, okay?" Yejing thought secretly, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. After pondering for a few seconds, he looked up and said 4 words. "Work. Pay. Debts. Impossible. It's impossible to work, not in this life." Siu's head shook like a rattle, and she refused without thinking. She would rather sleep under a bridge than go to work. Yejing's face went dark. Why can such words be said with confidence? He now has a small fortune of more than 100,000 spirit stones, and he has joined GeniusProtagonist for a living, preparing to work and earn money. And this person who sleeps under the bridge doesn't even make money to support himself. Who is he waiting for to support him? Me. When he thought of this, Yejing was moved. In fact, if he supports a woman, he can still afford it, right? However, this thought only lasted for less than a second in his mind, and then he shook it off. Unrealistic fantasy, even himself is too lazy to support, let alone support others. Alas! Yejing suddenly sighed, waved his hand weakly, and said helplessly, "Forget it, just think of it as my bad luck, you don't need to worry about it, I will solve it myself, you should leave." "Forget it, that's it, I don't want to care about it." "Really?" Siu's face was happy, it settled. As if she was afraid that Yejing would go back on his word, she turned around and ran away from the broken window without saying anything. In a blink of an eye, Hong Yanyan's figure disappeared from Yejing's sight, which made him feel very tired. "Can't you say thank you? Can't you apologize?" Yejing looked at the window with a big hole in it, and then looked at the messy room with scars all over the floor, shook his head, and turned away. "Go to sleep in another room. This small villa is big enough, there are several rooms on the second floor, and this room can be left alone." Yejing walked into the room next door, feeling sleepy, and fell asleep. So tired. The next day, Yejing was awakened by the ringing of the mobile phone before he woke up. He rubbed his sleepy eyes, fumbled for a long time before getting the phone, and saw that it was gray, so he felt angry about getting up. He was asking for death by not sleeping so early in the morning. Then he glanced at the time again. 12:33. Well, it was a bit early. As soon as the call was connected, Gray's shouting voice came over. "Oh no! Something big has happened." Yejing frowned. "What happened? Did yesterday's incident get exposed?" Gray's voice was a little apprehensive. "I was idle this morning, so I went to the tavern where GeniusProtagonist was. Then the uncle told me that the chief was back and would come to see us in the afternoon, so we had to wait." "Chief?" Yejing was slightly stunned, and then he remembered that he seemed to have heard Xiaokui mention him. He was said to be a very terrifying genius, the leader's chosen successor, not a successor. Yejing asked in confusion, "We are just two newcomers, why do you want to see us?" "Gray, you will know after you meet him. Come quickly." Yejing looked at the time and replied, "Well, come and pick me up." Gray's face turned black. "I'm not a driver. I'll let Xiao pick you up." Then he hung up the phone, leaving Yejing alone in thought. The chief of GeniusProtagonist, when Xiaokui mentioned him before, he was obviously afraid. This was the only time he saw Xiaokui afraid, which made him a little curious about what kind of person he was. Yejing put on a set of clothes, washed in the bathroom, and went downstairs. Then, "Why are you still here?" Yejing stood at the stairs, staring at the figure in the living room with wide eyes, and couldn't help but be startled and screamed. On the sofa in the living room, there was a pretty figure sitting, still wearing the familiar red sleeves and dress, still the familiar shawl. Red hair, the red hair was a little wet, and it was obvious that she had just taken a bath. I saw Siu lazily leaning on the back of the sofa, exposing her delicate white and smooth feet, stepping on the carpet. 10 toes painted with bright red nail polish were curled up and down, very tempting. When she heard a loud shout, she turned to look at Yejing and said calmly, "Good morning." "Good morning, you bastard." After Yejing replied subconsciously, she felt something was wrong. She ran downstairs and stood in front of Siu, looking down at her from above, but after just one glance, she looked away. "So big and white. It's so early in the morning that I can't hold back my gun." Yejing looked straight at Siu's charming face, unmoved, and said angrily, "Why don't you leave my house? Thanks to the Black Ruler for the 200 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 181. Regardless of Yejing's anger, Siu looked calm. I thought about it last night and felt that it would not be good to leave. If you break other people's things, you have to return them. This is a traditional virtue. So, I made a decision. Siu blinked her eyelashes, looked at Yejing and said seriously, I decided to live with you first, and then leave when I have money to pay you back. Yejing. Yejing was so angry that he felt so confident. Wasn't it because he didn't want to sleep under the bridge anymore? Don't you want to come in just because you see how luxurious my home is? Why? Can a beautiful woman really do whatever she wants? Dream. Yejing pointed to the door, get out. After giving the order, Siu really stood up and walked away on the floor, but the direction was not to the door, but to the kitchen. Hungry. I really feel like you're home. I'm still hungry. Yejing didn't even know what to say. It was the first time he met such a woman. She was so shameless. Yesterday she beat you to death, but today she was beaten to death. What a big deal. Yejing threatened, I'll call the police if you do this. Then you won't have to live in a bridge, just live in jail. Siu turned around, faced Yejing, and sneered, how dare you? If you dare to call the police, we will fight for our lives here. I can't afford to pay for demolishing your home. You. Yejing was speechless. He really didn't dare. If he really demolished his home, he would cry to death. Just when his face was gloomy and uncertain, the doorbell suddenly rang. Brother Jing, I'm here to pick you up. Came so quickly. After Yejing was stunned for a moment, he glared at Siu fiercely, you were waiting for me to come back. Siu disagreed, and sneered secretly in her heart. She didn't even think of it last night. The first blood that gave her and half her life was lost, so she just wanted to forget it like this? How can there be such a good thing in the world? She had saved her first blood for 3 years, but because of Yejing's trouble yesterday, most of it was lost, leaving only a little bit left to survive. If she let Yejing go, she would not agree to it. Yejing didn't know what Siu was thinking. After he opened the door, he saw Xiaowu's smiling face. How did it come so fast? Xiaowu smiled and said, my young master has asked me to come and pick you up a long time ago. Get in the car. After Xiaowu finished speaking, he was about to turn around when he saw a beautiful figure through the crack of the door. He couldn't help but reveal a wicked smile on his face and gave Yejing a thumbs up. The fight was so fierce during the day yesterday, and we can have another fight at night. Brother Jing is indeed a strong man. Yejing had a dark look on his face, this is all nothing, I don't know her. Xiaowu looked at Yejing with a deep look in his eyes and nodded, I don't know her either. Then, he glanced at the crack in the door and found that no one could be seen. Then he approached Yejing and secretly took out a transparent crystal bottle filled with 7-color liquid and handed it to Yejing. Yejing frowned, what is this? Xiaowu whispered, this is what Master Gray rewarded me. It's called Alice. It's the latest and most expensive medicine in the outer 5 districts. 10 grams costs 10,000 spiritual stones. It's extremely powerful. Yejing frowned even more tightly, 10 grams of 10,000 spiritual stones. What kind of medicine is this? What does it cure? Xiaowu glanced down calmly, winked and said, it's that kind of medicine. Yejing understood, and his face darkened, I want this medicine to be of no use. Then he grabbed the medicine bottle and threw it into the storage bracelet at super high speed. 10 grams of 10,000 spiritual stones, don't give it up in vain. If it can be used, Wouldn't it be a profit? Yejing stretched out his head and took another look inside the house. He couldn't help but feel a little worried. If I go out like this, my house won't be demolished, right? After the two got in the car, they drove directly to the tavern in the outer 5th district. Not long after, the car stopped. After Yejing got out of the car, he thanked Xiaowu, then opened the door and walked in. In the tavern, the uncle was sleeping on the table, Ai Zyakui was sorting some documents in front of the counter, and Gray was playing with his mobile phone. There were only 3 of them. After Yejing walked in, he asked, "Where is that girl Xiaoyan?" Hearing Yejing's voice, Gray suddenly raised his head, rushed over, grabbed Yejing, and held on tightly, with tears in his eyes. "Damn it, you're here." Yejing looked Gray up and down and couldn't help but asked in surprise, "Why are you like this? Where is Xiaoyan?" Gray looked resentful and gritted his teeth and said, "Forget about that naughty kid. He gave me a brief introduction to the chief and then ran away." Yejing's mouth twitched. "Running away? That's not true, is it? Look at Ai Zyakui, isn't she doing well? Is it so scary?" The word escape was uttered. He glanced at Ai Zyakui, and his heart skipped a beat. Looking carefully, he saw that Ai Zyakui's hands trembling slightly as she was sorting the documents. "Chief. Who is he?" Then, he heard how Xiaoyan introduced the chief from Gray's mouth, and cold sweat immediately fell from his face. Gray said so. The chief was brought into Yuejianhei by the leader at the age of 5, and then started the legendary road. When I was 6 years old, I was reading books in the underground library. I accidentally hit an oil lamp and burned down the entire library. The library died. When I was doing sword practice at the age of 7, my hand slipped and the light sword flew out and hit the confused instructor on the forehead. The instructor died. At the age of 13, he was on his first mission and was led into the enemy's base by his predecessors. However, he fell flat on his face and exposed their entire team. He ran away and his predecessors died. At the age of 15, he was cleaning the organization's equipment. When wiping the energy grenade, he accidentally pulled out the fuse and threw it into the equipment warehouse in a panic. He was intact and died in the equipment warehouse. At the age of 17, he entered the underground palace realm. With his super bad luck, he became the chief of Yuejianhei with the votes of all members, and no one refuted. 3 years have passed since then. The 20-year-old chief has reached the peak of the 9th level of the underground palace realm. He is well known in the demon city and has a nickname that makes people tremble. Jizukiu, a human moldy weapon. After hearing this, Yejing was sweating profusely and was restless. Is this called horror? This is obviously a killer, okay. He finally understood the meaning of this horror. In general, in one sentence, anyone and anything that comes into contact with him will die a miserable death. The library burned, the instructor died, the teammates were all killed, and the equipment warehouse exploded. Yejing stood up suddenly and turned around and left. I quit the organization. I can't afford to offend such a person, so I can only hide. He thinks he is already unlucky enough. Once he comes into contact with such a moldy weapon, the two will add up and the whole person will explode. But he has already come in. Can he quit just because he wants to? Before Yejing took a few steps, the door of the tavern was pushed open, and a soft but intoxicating voice rang in his ears. As the chief, I will not allow you to quit the group. Thanks to Xuanhuan for the 500 coin reward, Xuanhuan. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin Ji Bayet. Chapter 182. The door was pushed open. A refined young man walked in from the door. He was dressed in light clothes, had a handsome face, and a smile on his face. His footsteps were light and silent. When he walked in, a sunshine-like breath filled him. He looked like a big brother next door. Chief. Looking at this character's background, Yejing couldn't help but feel puzzled. He was a handsome and gentle man. He didn't look as scary as they said. Could it be that Ji Qinjian was talking nonsense? Yejing thought so. When the chief walked in, the uncle who was silently wiping the wine glass suddenly trembled all over and lowered his head. Ai Zyakui, who was sorting out inexplicable documents, shook his hands, and the documents fell on the table, and he sorted them out in a panic. After the chief came in, he narrowed his eyes, smiled at Gray, then looked at Yejing, and said gently, "You two are newcomers, right? Nice to meet you. My name is Ji Ziqiu, and I am the current chief of Yujianhe." Yejing was about to say hello, but his face suddenly changed. In the blink of an eye, the chief in front of him disappeared. Gray also changed his face. He had been looking at the chief with fear. When he disappeared, he had already been warned in his heart. He moved his back unconsciously, spread his wings, and wrapped his body in front of him, protecting his body tightly. The next moment, the chief who disappeared in the original place suddenly appeared. He was originally standing at the door, and he didn't know when he was already 1 meter in front of Gray. He couldn't see how he moved over. A world away. The chief raised his palm with one hand, and a faint silver light appeared on his palm. He rushed like lightning and slapped Gray's wings that protected his body. Bang! With a muffled sound, a light palm print was printed on Gray's snow-white wings. Gray's wings trembled violently, and feathers fell. Gray's body suddenly retreated several steps and barely stood firm. After the palm was slapped, without any pause, the figure of the chief disappeared from the spot again. Not good. Yejing's face changed, and his mind turned subconsciously. He drew out the golden longsword and chopped it in front of him. He predicted the position where the chief would appear. Sure enough, when his sword chopped out, the figure of the chief had appeared in front of him. The same palm of silver light, with a faint strong wind, slapped the longsword that was chopped. When they faced each other, Yejing felt an unparalleled pressure coming from the front of the sword, as if a mountain was pressing down on him. His body retreated several steps and stabilized his body. So strong. Yejing was shocked. Apart from the undead knight, this was the first time he was repelled head-on when he used the Golden Dragon Slayer to fight against someone, and it was just a casual palm strike. Is this the chief of Yujianhe? Is this the elite genius of the Demon City? Well-deserved reputation. While Yejing was shocked, Ji Ziqiu squinted his eyes and looked at Yejing with a little surprise, or the weapon in his hand, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Yes, both of you are very talented. On behalf of the organization, I welcome you to join. While speaking, Ji Ziqiu casually retracted his palm, and no one noticed that there was an inch-long crack on his sleeve. What a powerful weapon. This new guy is quite interesting. A test. Yejing breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked, "Does it mean that everyone who joins the organization has to take a palm strike?" Ji Ziqiu smiled and nodded, "Yes, Yujianhe is an elite. So far, he is not an ordinary person. There are only a few hundred monks. If he can't even take a palm strike from me, what's the use of him?" After that, he reached out and patted Yejing on the shoulder, encouraging, "You two are already very good. Under the huge gap in strength, you just stepped back slightly. Those other newcomers in the human realm, I will hit them with a palm strike, and they will all fall down." Yejing laughed dryly. Is he praising me or himself? Yejing was about to say something, and suddenly heard a crisp sound of glass breaking from behind him, and then a sound of breaking through the air sounded, rushing straight towards Yejing. Instantly, a strong sense of death that had never appeared before surged in his heart, even stronger than when facing the undead knight. What? This was his first thought. I'm going to die? This was his second thought. Just when he thought he was going to die inexplicably, the chief suddenly pushed him. The next moment, a bright light flashed past his neck and directly inserted into the door frame next to him, buzzing. All this happened in just 1 second, and in this second, Yejing was sweating coldly. This was the first time he experienced the feeling of death so closely. If the chief hadn't pushed him, he would have really died. Yejing swallowed his saliva dryly, turned his eyes, and looked at the doorframe, the thing that almost cut his neck. It was a piece of transparent glass the size of a half-brother's palm, deeply inserted into the doorframe, half inserted. Yejing turned his head again and looked at the counter. He saw broken glass shards scattered on the counter. The uncle was looking at him with an apologetic look, and smiled awkwardly. "I don't know what happened, the spiritual energy in my body suddenly ran wild, crushed the cup, and then flew out." While speaking, the uncle also gave Yejing a very obscure look. Yejing followed his gaze and saw the chief looking at him with a faint smile. Yejing glanced at his shoulder again and saw the chief's hand still patting his shoulder. Then, the introduction of the chief that he had just heard appeared in his mind. "Jizukiu, the moldy man in the world, will kill anyone and anything that comes into contact with him." In an instant, Yejing's sweat soaked his clothes, and his figure flashed and flashed 10 meters away. He looked at the chief with horror, and panicked in his heart. "Just a pat on the shoulder, and I will die. Is it really so scary? I can't afford to offend him." He knew why Ji Qingjian ran away, why Izayakui was still standing more than 10 meters away, and died unclearly if he got close. Who can stand this? Is it too late to quit the group now? Similarly, Gray also saw the scene where Yejing almost died, and quietly stepped back a few steps, keeping a distance from the chief. In the blink of an eye, there was no one within a radius of 10 meters from the chief. Jizukiu saw it in his eyes, remembered it in his heart, and didn't care. He also knew his physique, and he had encountered this kind of thing many times. Afterwards, Jizukiu found a seat and sat down, then waved to Yejing and the others, signaling them to sit down as well. "Xiaoqui, are all the things I asked you to prepare ready?" Aizayakui's body stiffened, and she nodded repeatedly. "That's good." Jizukiu smiled with satisfaction, then turned around and said to Yejing and Gray with a serious face. "I asked you to come here today to talk about something. Let's build a country happily together. The next chapter is wrong, no problem."